I was telling some people in the lobby, most of the time at a church event, you want it to be huge. This is one of those church events where the smaller is actually better because it means that everybody's like, I don't have any questions, but this way we get to answer the questions. We get to answer everybody's questions who does have them, so I'm excited about this time together. Okay, so let me give you a quick snapshot of the format for tonight. This is going to be pretty straightforward. We've got several of our elder team here, several of our financial advisory team here. Basically, I'm going to give you an overview of everything that we think is going to be that stuff that rises to the top. Everything going on at the Ransom Church, everywhere we're going in the future, the plans we have about things. My goal for tonight is to try to answer as many of your questions as possible before you even have to ask them, so that you just go, oh yeah, okay. So I'm going to go through kind of the list of frequently asked questions, and then what we're going to do is we're going to open it up to Q&A. We're going to have, I'm going to grab one of the pastors, we're going to have them come around with a microphone. The only reason we're going to use a microphone, even with the smaller setting like this, is because this is being videotaped, and it's going to go out to, I see some of you strategically placing yourself behind the camera. This is going to be videotaped, and it's going to go out to the entire congregation so that anybody who attends here is going to get this clip and have the opportunity to watch it. We just want to make sure that we are living with full disclosure, full integrity. We want to lay everything out there. And so the video of this, along with the documents, if you didn't grab, there's some documents out there, a small packet. The video along with that packet is going to be provided by email to everybody in the church. And so we're going to have, if you have a question, we're going to have you wait until we bring you a microphone. If I'm going to answer the question, I'll go ahead and answer it. If I'm going to have an elder come up and answer it, or one of the pastoral staff that wants to speak to it, I'm actually going to ask elders and staff that you come up here and sit on this bench and answer the question, only because, again, we want to make sure that those who are going to watch this from home get to see who's answering it and that type of thing. So we'll probably have you come up, introduce yourself. Even if you're pastoral staff, we'll just kind of be a little formal like that, just so that we can just, if somebody perchance doesn't know who you are as a staff or as an elder, we can answer those questions. So let's go ahead and start our time in prayer, and then we're just going to jump in, and then when we get to the Q&A point, we'll kind of take it from there. So, Heavenly Father, thank you for this church and for what you had planned for us long, long ago before we ever knew that the Ransom Church would exist. And Father, I just am so thankful to be part of it, part of what you're doing here. God, it's humbling to be at the helm of something like this, and I just pray that as we try to steer this thing, as a pastoral staff and the elders try to direct this thing, that first and foremost, we would be seeking you in prayer together, that we would be trying to go the direction we feel you are leading us, and that everything that we do would be full of integrity and accountability every step of the way. And so as this congregational roundtable exists to have that conversation that will lead to integrity and accountability, I pray that you would help questions be answered, hearts be clear, so that we can move forward unified in everything that we're doing. I pray in your name. Amen. All right, so the goal again is to update you on everything that's happening at the Ransom. We won't hit everything. We won't answer everything. Some of the stuff I answer, I won't give you a satisfactory answer. And so just keeping notes of questions you want to ask along the way and at the end. We're going to do our best to cover as many topics, and then we're going to open it to discussion. I'm going to tell you right now that God is absolutely sovereign, and he's absolutely perfect, and we are absolutely not. We are, I guarantee, making mistakes along the way, but we're trying to move forward with integrity and accountability, and just be open-ended in everything we do. And so we're going to give you full disclosure. You got those packets. Those packets contain a lot of information, probably answer some of your questions before you even ask them, because some of the biggest questions we have about accountability come down to our church governance and to finances. And so that packet will answer a lot of those questions. We will give you opportunities to ask any questions out of those packets you want. But let's just jump in. And I'm just going to go through some key topics along the way. So first of all, let me just give you an update with the multi-site. And Pastor Wayne, I may lean on you at some point to give more information. And so Phil, Kay, if we can get a mic ready and maybe even get it to Pastor Wayne in case, who has it? Oh, it's right there. Ha ha! You know what? He told me we were going to have this right here. Wayne, you know what? Why don't you just come on up, Wayne, and then we'll just give you the opportunity to. But we originally were going to. Well, first of all, let's just even back up even further. The multi-site effort is our goal to reach outside of these walls because we really believe that we can't reach everybody God's called us to reach in this limited location. We just can't do it. We're already experiencing space issues here. We just can't expect. Yes, I know. It's okay. It's okay. This was by design. I wanted to feel small tonight. Whatever works. But so our goal, our heartbeat is, if you think of a spiraling out circle, we want to start to. We feel particularly called to touch rural communities. It doesn't mean it's the only place we'll do this, but we're looking at, Harrisburg, for example, 3,000 people, 3,000, 4,000 people, average age 27. Okay, so there's young families moving into these rural communities, but no one's going to plant a church there. Just the time, resources, money, you can't do it. So that's why we feel called to start to bring the Ransom Church to these rural communities and just kind of spiral out and see how far God lets us go. And so Harrisburg is that first shot. Originally it was going to be Easter 2014, and as we've been, we don't do anything around here without just seeking God in prayer and fasting, and just as we got on our knees and our faces before God and said, God, what do you want us to do here? We ended up moving that launch date up to March 2nd. March 2nd begins a series that is going to go from March 2nd until Easter called The Life of Christ. And we thought, what better time to just launch this new church than looking at a series called The Life of Christ leading 8 weeks up to Easter. I mean, it just seems like just a no-brainer, great time to move up to. And so what we're going to be doing is January 12th, we're going to have a soft launch, which means that we're going to do an entire service. We're just not inviting anybody. So we're going to send all the people from our church. We're not going to announce it to the community. It's going to give us an opportunity to have service over there, but not tell anybody. So when we mess up and we do everything wrong, we go, oh, okay, we got to figure this out by next week, because January 19th is the advertised service, our first preview service. We're going to do one in January, and then we're going to send out some surveys, and okay, where did we mess up, what did we do wrong? We're going to do on February 16th, and then we're going to launch March 2nd. So that's kind of where we are with the timetable for multi-site. Financing for multi-site will take money. I mean, that's just, we will take it. So if you know somebody who wants to give it, Wayne will, let Wayne talk to him. But we're budgeted for, in our budget, we're budgeted for expenses, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, in the 2014 year for getting that going. 12 Stone Church, the church that I'm lucky enough to be mentored by, gave us $20,000 a few months back for this effort. That $20,000 right now is being used to pay Wayne's salary, so that we just don't have to take that out of the regular budget, so we're honoring that gift there. There may be some fundraising necessary. Obviously, when we start it, there will be some expected tithes and offerings from the people who have transitioned over there to offset. But bottom line, it costs money, and there is a gap, a step of faith that we're taking there. But you can look at the budget, and you can see what we've got laid out there for budget numbers. And as far as community involvement, just a few key highlights, and I'm going to have Wayne just share anything he wants to share. But, man, we've met with the mayor, some key community leaders, Chamber of Commerce leaders, and they're literally excited about our presence. We get to be part of their fall festival at Halloween. Wayne can share a little bit about that. Wayne and Teresa are going to be living there. They would have already closed on their house, but then the government shut down, and so the loan they were going to get has to be now another kind of loan, and they're just shifting all that. And so they're still homeless, which is cool, but they'd like to have a house. And we're going to be meeting in the old middle school, not the newest one they built, but the older middle school for at least the first year. So Wayne, do you want to add anything to that kind of multi-site update?
No, that all sounds great. Am I on? You hear me okay? We're very excited about it, and part of the reason why we are so excited is because I know a lot of prayer went into this to begin with before we even got here. As Phil shared, prayer and fasting has been a big part of the culture, and it's a big part of this endeavor too. There's just an excitement in my spirit about Harrisburg and what's happening and what has happened. All of our interactions with the community have just been overwhelmingly supportive and wanting to do all they can to help us feel welcomed into the community. Phil said, the mayor is pumped. The city officials are pumped. We had a couple of meetings now with the Chamber of Commerce, and we get involved with the Chamber. We're members there now. So the fall festival, the kids outreach, we're going to be a part of that. It's going to be they have about 200 or 300 kids. They do kind of a trunk or treat, and they visit all the businesses, and we're going to have a place set up in that as a quote unquote business where they can stop by and get some free candy and a hot dog, and also some literature in our church, some initial introductory stuff for the Ransom Harrisburg site. So we're real excited. Certainly use your prayers, and if you hear that faint little whisper, Harrisburg, that's the Holy Spirit talking to you, okay?
And if you hear the loud whisper, it's Wayne, but you should probably just listen anyway. Originally, we've got about 40 to 50 committed, right?
We've got about, I can with integrity say we've got like 35 on a list. I can say there's another 15 or 16 I know of, so 40 be with integrity to say on a list. And then others that I know are thinking and talking. So I'd easily say right now between 50 and 60, 30 that are on a piece of paper, another 30 that are talking and waiting until we get going kind of thing. So
our goal is 100.
yeah.
We will be starting this Sunday, the 20th, to push for people. It's kind of like God gave us all our leadership, key leadership as far as people who are serving on First Impressions here, who are now leading First Impressions there, serving with kids who are now leading kids there, that type of thing. So that beautiful transition is happening, and now we're looking for people who will go and serve in these ministries that already now have leadership. And so we're looking for another 40 to 50 people.
And I must say, for us coming in here not knowing anybody, now knowing the leaders that we do have and the quality of people we have, it's amazing how God allowed us to have people that we have already that are in place that are top quality, top-notch leaders. So we're just really excited about that, and that's a great way to start anything like this, is to have the leadership that we do. So,
well, thanks, Wayne. We're gonna keep on trucking. Again, if you have any questions on multi-site, just save them. We'll do the Q&A at the end. I'm gonna shut that off for now. Let me jump into building. You have the sheet in front of you that has on the back side, there's the second page of your packet, the financial stuff's on the front, but the back side gives you some numbers. I want to kind of get these numbers exact here. So the brick challenge, our goal by the end of the brick challenge was to be to $400,000. We raised $345,855.81. That's where we're at right now. Praise God for that. Integrity says we must raise $400,000 because I want you to understand, our district's not holding us to that. Our denomination's not holding us to that. Our lender's not holding us to that. We're holding us to that. Because we said to this congregation, we're going to get some skin in the game. We're going to raise $400,000 so that we can minimize what we borrow. The rest of the money we borrow, we'll borrow from Wesleyan Investment Foundation, which is our denominational lender. So basically, we're not hitting the pause button on the plans. We're just continuing to do what we've been doing. We're just not going to push it as hard from the pulpit. But, this is that time of year where I think we'll see a lull in the giving, and very likely end of the year giving is what will push us up over the hump. And that's okay. And so we'll just continue to wait on that. Just as far as where we are with the plans, our drawings are done. Vanderwall and Associates is architect who did our drawings. They are done. They are ready to go. We bid 5 companies in October. Aaron, help me remember. Suncoda, Golden Rule, Mark Luke Construction, Beckenhofer, and Jans. So we bid those 5 ones. The bids came in higher than we were hoping, higher than our original conversations. There's a lot of factors in that. Aaron Imhoff is one of our elders and is willing to come up and talk a little bit about this later, but he is also a contractor and does all that. Well, him and his son did this, and we're just forever indebted to them for what they did here and for their heart for this church. And he continues to have that heart, and so he's doing some research for us to see, first of all, what we can do to get some of those numbers down. He's also, we had conversations about this is a time of year where we bid this project and no plumbers would bid it at the time of bid because they were so busy. That's not the time you want to bid a project, is when everybody's got that much work. So a few months is going to make a huge difference in the workload. November, December, January, when people are looking for inside work, we got a lot of inside work that needs to be done. And so we're looking at rebidding. We're doing some research. We're trying to get those numbers down. And this is a great time to do that because we're just continuing to fundraise. And so that's where we're at with the building. We're continuing to push, continuing to fundraise, and we're just looking at how can we get our bid numbers where we need them to be. So that remodel, for those who don't know, will include tons of kids area downstairs, room for our closet ministry, several new life groups room, a new prayer room. It'll expand our current bathrooms, which are definitely needed. It will expand our current lobby, which is definitely needed. It will expand this room a little bit. The worship center will go to somewhere between 600 and 650 seats. Part of that upgrade is some sound stuff, but lest anybody think we're just spending willy-nilly because we want new sound toys. Everything that we're doing is to correct two problems. Number one, we never plan on having seats on the side over here. Great problem. So we're going to be doing some speakers and some screens that will feed those sides, which just makes a lot of sense, makes those better seats. Number two, everything that we're pulling out of here, we're trying to reuse as much of it because most of the stuff that we're pulling out of here is going to be the Harrisburg sound system. So we bought a new soundboard here because Harrisburg gets our soundboard. We bought, we're buying new speakers here. Harrisburg gets those speakers, and whatever speakers they don't get will either be resold or reused somewhere. So we're trying to be really, really frugal with the way that we do the sound, and in a way that honors where we're going with Harrisburg for the future. So all of that sound stuff will be finished by December so that the multi-site can launch. So that is a step that we're pushing ahead on, and that's why. So in the meantime, we need a temporary kids plan, because if we started, we were talking with our elders and with our financial team, if we started today, the remodel, if we started last week, it'll be, a lot of the bids came in 6 months, 9 months, a year, almost a year, not quite a year, but almost a year, 9 months. That's too long to not do anything about what's going on with our kids right now, which is where we're feeling the hugest pinch. So our plan is currently we're using what used to be our offices as a lounge area meeting space, and it does get utilized quite a bit. But our plan is to better utilize that space after talking with elders and talking with our financial team, to move our current usher room, which sits in the southwest corner of the building, out to one of these exterior offices so that we can access it from the outside, put a door on and access it from the outside. So that can be a lockable room, but they don't have to walk through that lounge space, that lobby space. And then the plan is to, just for temporary, move a portion of kids to that breakout space, which basically means that Cody and Natalie and their team are working on figuring out how to utilize the offices best for that, by taking doors off and creating open, safe spaces, spreading the remaining kids out through the current kids area. So a portion of kids will move over to this, and as far as exactly what that's going to look like, we're still working through the details. The other portion will remain, and so will spread out through the rest of the room. So that'll buy us some space. We have a camera system currently in our kids area to keep kids safe. We're going to get another camera system for this area. That camera system won't be an added expense. It'll be an expense that would have been used downstairs. We'll just be purchasing that early. The price tag on that isn't, like when you think camera system, you're thinking thousands of dollars. That camera system's about $700 at Sam's. So it's not like a huge out-of-control expense, and there will be a TV monitor. And that'll all be recycled and reused in the basement. We've talked with kids leaders. They're all on board. They're all excited about this. So we're hoping in the next 1 to 2 months to transition and literally spread our kids out. So you'll be hearing about that in services as we announce that, as we kind of move through that. But that's going to be a better use. So what's currently in the lounge is probably going to be moved temporarily to the life groups room. We're figuring out what we're going to do with the tour, which is our newcomers event, which I don't think, we maybe done it the same twice in a row, 3 times. We made it 3 times in a row without having to shift that around, because we just keep experiencing growth issues and things like that, which is a great problem. So, but temporarily, we're looking at different options for that. That is easier to finagle and work around, and we'll figure something out. Even if it's like we're looking at midweek options like a Tuesday night or things like that. We're just trying to figure out what's going to be the best way to minister to people who are newcomers. But that's the plan for the old office space for the short term. So the overall timetable, I've been asked a lot about the timetable. That all depends on when we rebid. And based on the contractor, is it 6 months, is it 9 months, is it 210 days, how many days out they are. So that's a little bit of a moving target. The goal, if we do rebid it, say in the winter, in the colder months, whereas the goal before would have been to do anything outside first, try to get it enclosed and move from there. The goal now is to flip that on its head and do everything we can inside in these cold months, and then when the thaw comes, to build the small expansion on the back. So it would start basement first, and then probably something like main floor, and then the addition once the basement's all done. All the work will be done in one project, not in a bunch of phases. So that's where we're at with the building plan. So let's talk about money. Current financial situation. If you look on the front side of this sheet, you got the full budget, but just that little paragraph-looking thing on the right side there kind of gives you a snapshot. Our mortgage was originally $875,000. We've been paying on that mortgage since we've been in the building, so almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in December. So obviously that's come down from there a little bit. I think it's in like the 850, 860 range because they don't move a lot at first. But that equals about $5,300 a month. And it's easy when you're talking about these big numbers to get lost in numbers and go $875,000 or $1 million. That just seems like so much money. The only way you can really do it is think about, if you make $15 an hour, and it would be ridiculous for you to have to pay $100,000 all at once, but it would be easy for you to get a mortgage for $100,000, because of the payment. Well, the payment, what we're looking at there is $5,300 a month. That's what our current mortgage is. Our average weekly giving right now is $18,842 a week, and that does not include anything given for the building. That's just above and beyond what's been given for the building, average giving. This represents 23 weeks, May 1st through October 6th, because our budget year starts May 1st. So $18,842. Our average total weekly giving, including the fundraising, is $27,335 a week. God is doing incredible things there. So that's all income. For 23 weeks, May 1st through October 6th. So just as far as giving you a snapshot of where that will probably even out, somewhere halfway in between there. Typically you have a certain giving base, and then when you start fundraising for something on top of that, it goes way up, and when it settles somewhere in the middle. So somewhere between $18,000 and $27,000, probably in the $22,000 to $23,000 a week range is where it's hard to tell right now because we're in that season of fundraising, but that's where our giving will be. If you look at the bottom of that weekly budget, there's a weekly budgeted need of $23,525, which can make you really nervous. Wow, we're way short of budget. A lot of what's budgeted there is things like for the multi-site and things that we haven't paid out yet that will come later in the year. So we're not struggling for finances at all, and we're saving quite a bit of money for the building. So that's just kind of where finances are at right now. I want you to, even as I'm talking, be looking at this budget sheet because I want you to get the overall picture. Some things I want to point out for you that are always concerns with people. Salaries for pastors. It's easy for those to get out of control as far as percentage-wise. I just wanted to, just for accountability, let you look at that. That's on here, and I'm trying to see. It's not all broken out. If you want all the broken out, we can get that for you. But essentially, I'm not seeing it. Halfway down, payroll. Yeah, there it is. That's why I'm looking. $153,105 month to date actual. It's $376 for the year. Our budget is $1.2 million. So if you do the math, our salary anywhere between 40% to 50% for a church is pretty normal, pretty healthy where you want to be. When you get beyond 50%, you're starting to be overstaffed. We tend to try to staff ourselves lean. Right now we're in a season where we hired a bunch of staff, so it feels like, man, we're We went from 5 to like 10. Like, where did all this come from? But that was us playing catch up, not us just hiring willy-nilly. Even with all those hires, we're right at, Alyssa told me, somewhere between 42 and 43% is where our staff number is. And that's in a hiring season. So we tend to try to budget on staff as lean as we can. I think any one of our staff would argue we could probably use 2 or 3 more staff at any given moment in probably half a dozen different places. But we just want to honor the integrity of the budgeting process. We want to honor our volunteers and use as much volunteers as we can. So that's where we are with overall staff picture. Where we are, another concern is people, mortgage. What in the world? We're doing this building campaign. What is the mortgage going to be? And so the mortgage on here, you see $100,000. This budget reflects the mortgage we will have once the building's done. Okay, so we're 6 months into the year. We're only $27,000 in. That's why. So at $100,000, that puts our, I don't know, what's the percentage there of 1.23? It's under 10%. It's like 6 or 7%, something like that, of our overall. So we just want to say, we're trying to live with integrity and keep our costs down. We're not trying to be willy-nilly with the money on the building. We're not spending ridiculous amounts. We're trying to keep those numbers in a fair range and again, honor, because the building's just a tool, right? And you don't spend all your money on a tool. You spend what it costs, but you don't just buy tools just to buy tools. And so we're trying to honor that, the finances on that as well. So also, if you look down the servant evangelism line, probably 2/3 of the way down the page, you'll see that total is $138,300. The reason for that is twofold. We committed to give at least 10% of everything that comes in for use in our community. We also said that we will always be giving away more than we're spending on our building, and that number reflects and represents those. So that number is a moving target that's always going up. As giving goes up, we sit down as a financial advisory team and go, where do we need to give away more money? And so you can actually see the breakdown, and I sent this out in my weekly email. That's the breakdown of where we're serving out in our community. So some pretty incredible things happening there as far as where $138,300 is being spent outside our doors. So we're excited. That's a number that we celebrate, and we're really, really excited about that. It's a number that we hope to continue to see going up in the future. So, all right. I'm almost done here. Where's your accountability in all of this? That's a question that I think is important. And that goes to the first page of your sheet. That packet you got has pictures of our 6 current elders, and it has their email addresses. So you can hunt them down, ask them whatever questions you want. There's full disclosure on everything. It also has our financial advisory team's emails, contact information on there. Those are the people who help us make decisions as far as finances. Can we afford to hire? Should we hire? Should we spend money on this? They're the ones who help us make decisions about where the money goes outside of our community. We'll bring suggestions to them based on things that have come across our radars. And so that's where a lot of that, so we got the financial advisory team, we have the elder team. Also, we're held accountable by our district board of administration. Right now, our district superintendent, who will actually be here on October 27th, preaching in our services, and you'll get to, if you haven't met him, you'll get to meet him, and you can ask him any questions you want or connect with him. And but he will talk about how he trusts us to run the church, but he holds all the pastors really tight on financial, ethical, and theological accountability. Those are his 3 key areas where the district board and Isaac Smith, our district superintendent, and Wayne Muller, our assistant district superintendent, have a lot to do. And then another place for accountability is this room. And we're going to enter into that. We're doing that right now, but then we're going to enter into the Q&A in a little bit for the purpose of accountability. So we want to be accountable to you. So, all right, let's turn a corner. Crowding issues. Does anybody crowd in the lobby this morning? I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? And the kids are way more crowded. And so I've talked to you about what we're going to do with the kids, but what are our plans? Because one question I'm getting asked is, well, we're doing this big expansion, but we're not adding that many more seats. Why is that? And that was a long conversation. Part of it is we just don't want a room with 1,000 seats. There's just something that's lost there. You know, I feel like this room seats 520 right now or so, and I feel like it's a really intimate room. I feel like we're meeting in it with a smaller group, and it's comfortable. It doesn't feel huge. I feel like on Sunday when it's full, it can feel full, but it doesn't feel like you're just a number, like you're drowning. And so we wanted to maintain that. Another thing, this back wall of this worship center is full of the prayers of people who believed in this place early, and when we were putting up that wall, we wrote prayers on all the studs, filling all the walls, and we're just not ready to tear that down yet. And so we talked as a staff, we talked to our elders, we've talked with people in the congregation, and we've just had these conversations, and we're saying we need an intimate worship space. So our plan, we are going to add 80, 90 seats or whatever in here, but our plan is to add additional services. Because we decided instead of spending that much more on a space, I'd rather long-term invest that into a possible staff to run a 4th, 5th, 6th worship service. We don't know what that looks like. We're in conversations about a 4th service right now. What drives that conversation is us not losing our families, honestly, in the midst of it. And so we're trying to guard against that. And so we need volunteers because we want to offer. We're looking at a Sunday night option, most likely, and we want to offer full ministry, full children's, etc., for those who are shift workers and can't make a Sunday morning. The reason we're not as willing to go into Saturday night is because now we're talking 2 days instead of 1 day, and the opportunity for me to give any Saturday to my kids, to their sports, to those types, I can't do it. And so there will be a day when we cross that bridge, and it will probably require more staff, but we're just not there yet. And so those are some things. But down the road, we're looking at Saturday or midweek, which will take more staff. If you're watching this or if you're here tonight and you're not currently volunteering, this is why we need your help, is because this has to be driven by a whole new wave of volunteers. And you might say, well, we just recruited a whole new wave of volunteers. Well, half of that went to Ketchup, and the other half of it went to Harrisburg because Wayne stole them all. And that's fantastic. We love that. That's what we wanted. But that's why we're just continuing to because it's always going to be driven by how fast can we have people who can passionately run these ministries. And so that's part of the timing on that. So please be praying with us as we try to make wise decisions about when to pull that trigger and at the same time protect our families. So another issue I want to cover, I've got 2 more things quick, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. Weddings at the Ransom. For a season, they're on hold. Now, that doesn't mean we're not doing weddings. I have a lot of weddings coming up soon. We're still doing a ton of premarital. Pastor Will put out for we need 4 new mentors this week for premarital couples. We have weddings coming out of our ears. We're just not doing them here, and that reason is multifold. One of them is the unknowns about the timing of the building thing. I don't want to schedule a wedding and then have to tell a bride, oh, I'm sorry, there's going to be a dump truck like in the worship center or whatever, at that time. We just don't want to do that to a bride. It's not fair. Another one is the demand on the building is getting so high, especially on the weekends. When we moved our office out of here, one of the thoughts was that, man, the building's going to sit empty all the time. It does not do that. It's busy with teen stuff. It's busy with giveaways. And so between the closet and the youth stuff that wants to be scheduled on weekends and all these different things, we were scheduling weddings, believe it or not, 12 to 18 months out. And then the schedule, of course, schedule 18 months from now is wide open. But then you get 6 months out, and the youth group wants to use the facility on a Saturday 6 months from now, and you have to say no because it's already booked for a wedding. And we just started going, this is really hard. And so we were starting to have to turn down ministries because of weddings. And yes, weddings are a ministry, which is why we're still doing those ceremonies. But this space for a season, it just wasn't working out. And that was a really, really hard choice. It's a choice that honestly, every time we're still honoring all our current contracts for weddings, even in the next year. And every time I do a wedding in here, I'm like, oh man, this is great. I love this. It's special to the family. But at the same time, we got to honor the people that we're trying to minister to, on a larger scale too. So for a season, no weddings. We don't know if that will be permanent, but that's at least where we're at on that. Last thing is the closet ministry. And I will probably, I won't have Wayne come up for this, but Wayne, I will have you speak to any questions that come up. But again, because of the remodel, there's no place for the ministry for a season. We were looking at storing all the clothing. We've already cut off new donations for a season, but what we're going to do, is we're looking at in January, or February, February, doing one more closet so that we're not just holding on to all these clothes. That just seems silly to us. People can use these things. So we're going to do one more closet. We're going to give them all away. One of the main reason we're putting a pause button on this is not the building. That's only the secondary reason. The main reason is we've met with the leadership of that ministry, and we're trying to restructure that ministry, and we're trying to launch it brand new in the spring because we want it to be better than ever. Because we talked about how our old goal was to give people clothes. But if you do that, if you give people something too long, it leads to entitlement. It leads to, they lose respect for themselves. You put yourself at it, but you have something, I have something you need, and now you're down here and I'm up here. And we want to eliminate that dynamic. And so we're doing some studying, some exploration. There's a book we read called Toxic Charity that I'd recommend to you if you want to understand where our heart is coming from on this issue. We're trying to restructure this so that the goal is not just to give people clothes, but to give them dignity. That it starts first and second time they come in our doors, we want to help them, no questions asked, give them clothes, provide that resource. But how do we walk them from needing clothes to having dignity and being able to be self-sustaining, self-supporting? That's a messy, hard, tough process, but we owe it to people because they're people, And so we're wrestling through that. And so our heart for this is a phrase that they used in Toxic Charity is we want to offer immediate care with a long-term plan. And right now we're not doing that well. We're doing the immediate care well. But we need to develop that long-term plan before we create something that actually becomes toxic here. So that's our heart. That's where we're doing with that. We're trying to avoid creating dependency. And we're not just running the closet through that filter. Pastor Wayne is not only our Harrisburg campus pastor, he's our compassion ministry pastor, which is everything reaching outside the doors of our church. We're running the turkey giveaway through that. I'll give you an example. Last year we gave turkeys away door to door, which is wonderful. But after talking with several of the schools, there are many refugees who don't even know how to cook a turkey. So is that turkey going to waste? There are families who don't need the turkey. So is that turkey going to waste? Like, how do you begin to navigate what's really going on? And so we're partnering with several schools, and we're working. Harrisburg's going to be one of them. We're hoping to get one of the other ones here in town. We were hoping for Hawthorne, but they've already got something lined up, which is fantastic. So we're looking at how do we get these turkeys into the hands of those who need them, and the schools are actually going to help us take a cooking sheet with instructions and translate it into the 5 main dialects that they're dealing with in school systems and make sure the right turkey gets to the right house with the right dialect sheet. And that's intentional, and we're trying to be intentional about it. So thanks, Pastor Wayne, for the extra effort you're putting into that, and we're trying to run all of our ministries through that. How can we create dignity as a long-term result? So that's a lot of what's going on at Ransom Church. So the rest of this time is just going to be about Q&A. So how we're going to work this is if you have a question, any question, I'll go vanilla ice. If you have a problem, we'll solve it. I'm actually going to ask Cody to come up and be our MC. That was a really bad joke, I know. It's been a long day. That was the best I got. That was my A game right now. So Cody will just come to you, and you'll be able to ask a question. You do not have to get up. You don't have to come up. I'll try to address it. If I can't address it, I'll call somebody up to address it, and we'll use that same mic up here so that everybody at home can see this. So does anybody have any questions? If not, this will be a super short meeting, and then we'll have some coffee because we got coffee in the lobby. It's good coffee? You want to give me some more? Sweet. David's doing coffee refills if you... Just put it right on top, man. Any questions? Any questions, just raise your hand up, and Cody will run you a mic. This might be short. No questions out of bounds. It doesn't even have to be about what I covered. If you're curious about anything about the church, man, if you're excited about something and you just want to share, whatever you have. Okay, Chelsea's got a question.
I was just wondering, like, that Harrisburg, right now it's funded, obviously, by the main campus here, but is it going to be self-sustaining, or is all money coming in and then going out as needed?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Harrisburg will always be the Ransom Church. And the reason I start with that is because that's first and foremost more important to us than the question that you asked, because it's more important. See, this answer is going to get really good because I'm going to get fresh coffee here. So it's first and foremost most important that we are recognized as one body. And that will become more and more important as we have, like if Harrisburg works, not if Harrisburg, when Harrisburg works, because God's all over this thing, when there's 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, and however many God blesses us with campuses, our heart is that they're all Ransom Church, that they're one body. That said, every campus is going to have its own unique personality. I would talk about if 1 is we don't care how much they're like us, and 10 is we want them to do every single thing down to the same song at the same time and the same everything. Harrisburg, for every site for us, will be a 5.1, which means we want them to be distinctly Ransom, but uniquely themselves. Does that make sense? And so I think the plan right now for Harrisburg and for all of the sites is that they would be as self-sustaining as possible. So it's almost like you got to have a little bit of a dual mindset. On the one hand, we want Harrisburg to be self-sustaining. On the other hand, it's one budget. You know what I mean? So yes, we expect it to work towards self-sustaining, but unlike a church plant where you say, man, if they're not on their own after 2-3 years, that's a drain on the main church. Well, Harrisburg is our church. You don't look at the children's ministry as a drain on the main, it's just, we are one body. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but the money, all of the money that's collected will come into the main campus. Harrisburg will be like a secondary sheet on there that will have another budget, but they'll all fall under one massive general budget. And for all sites, everything will be, we're trying to create the mentality that this is not the main campus. That there's a main hub, and that is the office. That is like the central services, so to speak. But this is just the downtown campus. Just as much as Harrisburg is just a Harrisburg. We're just different locations of this church, the hub of which is the main office. And so all of that will run through the main office. So. That was a good question. Any other questions? This is so awesome. The coffee is awesome too. Any topics you would like me to go ahead?
I was just going to ask if the Harrisburg campus would have the same sermon series going on at the same time.
Yep. What we're going to be able to do because of the technological steps we've taken is you notice a lot of times I'm up on the screen while I'm preaching, which you might say, well, it's not a big enough room. Why are we doing that? Part of that is because we're recording the services, so everything you see going live on the screens is ending up at the end of that service ready to go. A lot of times you record the guy and then you add all the stuff in later in what's called post-edit. The equipment we have allows us to do that live. It's happening live. And so what that allows us to do is our plan is to tape the 8:30 service and then upload it, and then say they have a 10 o'clock, I think we're looking at a 10 o'clock service, they would play that for the 10 o'clock. So there will be, everything's going to be live except for the sermon. They will have a worship team from, our worship team will be rotating through Harrisburg. So there's not an A team and a B team. It's not, varsity and JV. It's not that, one team is rotating through the campuses, providing worship for all our campuses. The Harrisburg team is going to practice on Tuesday nights. Our current team practices on Thursday nights. But it's all, just one, it's the same team of people providing worship for everybody. That includes Phil Wiseman and my wife and some different individuals that will actually be here sometimes and there sometimes, because we don't want anything to not be at the same level. Wayne and Teresa will be the pastors on hand there, the campus pastors. They are, for the rights and purposes, the pastors of the people that go to Harrisburg. I just happen to be the preacher. And so when it comes time for the message I preached that morning, the same series, the same everything, the same week, will be on the screen. One of the reasons we're really passionate about that is when we do want to do special events like Easter and Christmas and get all together and maybe rent a facility and rejoice all together in a big, if we ever want to do things like that, it's so much easier to do if you're on the same week. And so we're tracking, and for R3s, if you're in Harrisburg, what if you're a part of the Harrisburg site, but you decide, the only R3 that works for me is this Thursday night R3 over here in Sioux Falls, and then you get in that, well, you got to be on the same week in order to be able to do that, and so that's kind of our heart with that.
Will we be at any time in the future looking at a bus ministry?
Can you define bus ministry for me so that
Possibly transportation to Harrisburg or throughout the community, and possibly off-site parking?
yeah, we've discussed getting a bus for some off-site parking here. We've done it for special events. It's not been utilized a lot, only because we just haven't done it enough that it's commonplace. But if crowding got to the issue where parking becomes a major issue around here, we can park people down at the farmers market and then bus them back and forth. And we have explored that. As far as bus ministry for Harrisburg and getting, like old-fashioned get kids in and bring them in, like we haven't talked about that. We're always open to anything for discussion. Anytime we turn anything down, it's not before we pray about it, fast about it, and ask ourselves, does it fit our core values? I know, man, when you say worship free, live free, serve free, you can make anything fit. You know what I mean? If you're passionate about a ministry, you can make anything fit. But we really, our number one factor for doing or not doing something is prayer. And so that's something that, especially as far as transportation here, we've definitely looked into. So. For those at home, Wayne is trying to steal people for Harrisburg as we're having this meeting. We're in the meeting right now, and this is happening right now. So, any other questions? Anything you'd like to hear one of our elders address? You'd like to hear one of our staff address? Anything you're just curious about? I don't want to waste. I know I'm kind of pulling it out. I don't want to waste this opportunity because we do this 2-3 times a year in this setting, and I don't want people to a week from now be going, oh, I wish I would ask that question. I wish I would have thought of that, So we will probably, for those of you watching at home, we'll, if you watch this and you want to email us a question, set up an appointment, we want to do that. We want to honor that. But for those who are here, maybe you'll answer a question and somebody won't even have to send an email. So please don't think a question is silly or stupid. Ask it. I'd rather ask it and address it than go home and go, I wish I would have asked that.
This has nothing to do with the budget or Harrisburg or anything like that.
That's okay.
Coming from out of the Wesleyan Church, I was just curious. We've been attending here 4.5 months now, and today was the first communion.
Yep.
How often do you guys usually do communion?
Yeah. Not often enough for some people, too often for others. And it just depends on not even denomination, just tradition of church. We tend to do it about every other series or every quarter. Where's Phil Wiseman? Is that a fair? We try to do it about every quarter. We probably should do it more, and we haven't. And there's not. I like to say there's more rhyme or reason to that. Our rhyme or reason behind it is the Wesleyan Church isn't typically a tradition unless the pastor wants to do it where you do it every week. For us, every week, I think we just worry about it just becoming so commonplace that it just loses something. But we don't want to do it once a year either. We want it to be special when we do it. We want it to be meaningful. We try to tie it into certain things we're talking about at certain times, and so at that point it gets pushed a little further. I was even unaware it had been that long, and so don't ever feel afraid to send us an email and be like, "Can we do communion soon?" Because most often we'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's probably a really good idea. We should do that probably more often." But just Phil, from this conversation, we can be more intentional about looking in the next. We're trying to do it in key with series quarterly. So, great question. Great question. So.
And Cody, this is more for you. And would you mind just updating us where we are, with mid-high and high school student ministries?
Yeah, come on up, Cody, and then so everybody can see at home. And I'll stand up so you don't feel like,
I appreciate that.
how's that?
Should I slip?
Here, no,
Edie,
just-
that's a great question. It's exciting. As most of you know, in August we launched Ransom Teens. There's been a lot of talk about it leading up to it and all of that, and it is officially launched. And if you haven't heard what Ransom Teens looks like or what we're doing, it's a little bit different model in the fact that when you look at the youth model that's out there, it's broken because the statistics say that when a student who has been actively involved in a youth group leaves and goes to college, it's anywhere between 68 and 74%, depending on the statistics you look at, say they walk away from their faith by the time they graduate high school. And so we can debate why all day long. But at the end of the day, we want to equip our students from the Ransom so that they're not that statistic. They're not the norm. And so part of that we've strategically done is we've started life groups for our teens. And so 3/4 or 75% of what we do in Ransom Teens is a life group. That's a community, that's their group of 10, 12, 14 students that they can ask the real questions. Instead of just giving the Sunday school answer or sitting in the back and fading into whatever's going on, they're there. Not only that, we have 2 to 3 adult leaders per life group, and they are able then to connect even on a smaller level. So each leader has 3 to 4 to 5 students, and they make weekly contact with those students. Right now, we have 6 teen life groups going on, and they are split middle school and high school. So we have 3 middle school, and we have 3 high school. Then the last Wednesday of the month, we meet in this room here in the warehouse, and we have a rally where they all can come together. And they can look around and say, oh, that's that person off the football team, or this is the person that's got a locker next to me. I had no idea, because they're not in their little pockets anymore. And so we do a rally here. And in planning for this model, you would expect, because at the rally, it's got all the video entertainment, and it's got the live worship, and it's the games, and you would expect that the attendance is greater. And so we had prepared the team, and I'd been praying and talking with some of the other staff members, like, how are we going to push our kids into these life groups? And it's actually been the opposite. We have a greater weekly attendance in our teen life groups than we do at our life rally. Now, so far, we've been doing this for about 2 months, and that's what we're seeing. So that's where we're at. There's approximately, I don't have the numbers on hand, high 50s on a weekly basis in all of our life groups. And our 2 life rallies, I think we average 46 or 47. And so we have approximately 50 students involved in teen ministry, as well as we're getting ready to launch the student leadership program. So now we're going to take the leaders within the teens and give them some ownership of the youth group. And they're going to be able to steer and direct the direction in which we go, and give input, and then they will be trained and equipped and released to go share the gospel back into their schools and to their peers within Ransom Teens. So,
Cody, can you, in keeping it as anonymous as possible, can you share, you sent us an email a week or 2 ago, just a couple of stories just coming out of life groups that are just, I mean,
One
give me
life
chills.
group in particular, this came out of a high school life group, and we had just been talking the sermon series where Phil Wiseman had preached, talking about the 7 woes. And one of the woes was you clean the outside of the cup and you make it look great, but inside you're wasting away, or you're like the whitewashed tombs. And I get a phone call from one of my leaders that says, we want double pay. It got really deep tonight. And I was like, okay, what happened, you know? And virtually what had happened is one of the young men, one of the high school guys in this group, started sharing how he was living a quote-unquote double life, and that he would put on this front with his parents, but the reality is at school and behind closed doors, he was doing other things, and it wasn't honoring God, it wasn't honoring his parents. And he just opened up to the group and said, well, when I came clean with my parents, you would not believe the weight that was lifted off my shoulders. You would not believe how when I went to seek after God, when I got things right, how amazing it's become, and the doors God's opened me to share his word. And he continues to share these things, and these 2 girls start crying. And so the leaders did an amazing job, and they talked with them. And long story short is these 2 girls both said, yeah, we're doing the same thing right now. One girl said, my mom will be here in 20 minutes to pick me up. Will 2 of you come with me in this room and pray as I tell my mom what's going on? And so the female leader goes with her when her mom comes, and they sit down in another room of this house. While the host family is observing what's going on, they go to another room to pray. And she opens up to her mother and shares everything. And we're able to see this restoration in this mother-daughter relationship. it continues on, and that the second girl was crying, said, you know what, my mom's not going to be here, but I got to call her. I got to call her. We've got to talk right now. And so they go into another room of the house with a couple friends, and she asks her friends to pray for her, and she makes a phone call, and she shares the same type of thing. And so I have all kinds of stories like that of things that are happening in our teen life groups, and it's just absolutely wonderful.
Right? Like I got to compose myself for a second. I just get that'll work. That'll work. So that's good stuff. So yeah, God's just, I mean, all across the board, God's just doing amazing stuff. You know, I was listening to a sermon by Kyle Idleman this week, and he was talking about Revelation, and talking to the church in Thyatira, and all these 7 compliments that God gave to this church, and the 7th one had something to do with you're continuing to grow, or you're not who you were, something along that line. And he said, you know, when you're measuring things, whether good or bad, you know, we tend to measure like the number of people who are upset, or the attendance on Sunday morning, and these are all important factors and numbers, but the single stories of life change are how you determine the health of a church. You know, and so regardless of what's going on with attendance and all of this and that and the seasons of all people stuff, that is what reminds me every week that we're doing the right thing. You know, so because what teenagers are doing that? So
And to
thanks.
add on that, if you've worked with middle schoolers, they're engaged, they're taking notes, they are with this format. And so even in the middle school level of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, they're coming with notes from the sermon on Sunday to ask questions and engage with Scripture. And that's just unheard of with middle schoolers. So absolutely amazing.
So yeah, we doubled all the youth workers' salaries. They can have 2 free T-shirts instead of just the one that comes. So, any other questions? Or again, is there any elder that wants to make a statement? Any staff that wants to make a statement to the congregation? Aaron, would you come on up? Aaron Imhoff's coming up. He's one of our elders. He's the one I mentioned is going to be doing our building campaign research as far as our bids and things like that. And Aaron doesn't need a stool to be bigger than me. He's just taller than me anyway. So, but
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of share a little bit, I guess, because I know there's going to be questions about the building, what's going on, kind of where we're at. You know, we did talk about the bids came in a fair amount higher than what we thought, and this happens a lot in construction. For those of you, if it's great if you want a job in Sioux Falls, because you'll have it, and you'll get paid very well. It's not so great in Sioux Falls right now if you want to get work done, because time frame is bad, because everybody's really busy, and thus the price goes way up because everybody's busy. They're going to bid work to make money. Just that's the way the seasons go. And so that's what we're doing right now, trying to research. Okay, I'm going through, we're going to try and see if we can find some subs that are not quite so busy to bid things, and see where we can try to get the numbers down, hopefully to where we were thinking that they should be, and try to get it to where we can do this project and not have to borrow so much money, trying to be
absolutely
very frugal with our expenditures on this. And so just going through the prints right now, and going to go start talking to different contractors this week, try to see where we can get the numbers in, and hopefully can get it to where we can do this project and get the kids down in their own facility to continue to see that sort of thing happening.
and let me share that our Cody, let me know if they've started yet. But sometime this fall, our 2 and 3 year olds are starting a curriculum, like the same curriculum that the 1st through 5th graders are doing. They make it for all the way down to 2 and 3 years old, and our teachers are pumped out of their minds about it, because they don't feel like these kids should just be sitting there being babysat. And so they're implementing curriculum for 2 to 3 year olds. I'm so pumped out of my mind about that, because the foundation that's laying, like, I want the stories Cody shared when they get into middle school to be commonplace, you know? And that starts that early. So that part of what we're doing with the kids is to allow them to have the space to do what they need to do to offer the curriculum. And that's even why we're moving into the lounge area, the old offices, temporarily, is to try to create the space for these teachers to be able to, in segments, with these 2 to 3 year olds, do like Bible study and memory. Like, it's incredible. So, thanks, Aaron.
Any questions? Did that trigger any questions with anyone while I'm up here, I guess?
Well, thanks for being so incredibly supportive. Again, if you think about a question, never feel embarrassed to ask. For those of you who are watching this from home, let me just say, we want to live with full integrity and full disclosure in everything that we do. And so we are trying our best as broken human beings to lead well, to be held in accountability by our elders, to be held in accountability by our financial accountability team, advisory team, and to be held in accountability by our district. We want full disclosure. So if you ever have any questions, don't even hesitate to email our office, call one of our pastors, talk to one of you've got the elder sheet. We're going to provide it. If you are watching this at home, it's going to be attached to the video. You'll be able to download that and to contact us. We want to answer your questions. We want to have the tough conversations, because at the end of the day, we just want to live with integrity before our Lord in the way that we do everything. So thank you so much for coming. Thanks for those who did watch from home. Let me close this in prayer. Heavenly Father, it is the greatest of privileges to do your will. And God, your will so often takes us to places that we just can't even imagine. Your will so often stretches us and takes us way outside our comfort zones. And God, I'll be honest with you. There are some things you've asked us to do, even in the life of the Ransom Church so far, that have been, they've caused me to say, you want us to go where? You want us to do what? And God, you've blessed us so incredibly, but with that blessing just comes a host of new challenges. And we're doing the best we can to respond to those challenges. But God, in all of it, help us to always seek you first. God, help us to always be a staff, an elder board, a financial team, a church that prays first, that comes to you on our knees, that fasts and seeks your face, that does not move until we've spent countless hours asking you where to take the next step. God, help us to continue to be faithful. Lord, that doesn't mean we're not going to make mistakes. It doesn't mean we're not going to mess up. But help us create an environment of open communication, honest discussion, and lots and lots and lots of prayer. And we'll trust you as you guide us. I pray this in your name. Amen. Thanks, everyone, for coming.